Hello and welcome to Animated Wonders, an Explosion Network podcast where we celebrate animation in all of its forms. This is Animated Wonders. In this season, we'll be discussing all the films in the Toy Story franchise. Hello, my name is Dylan Blight, and joining me to discuss this week's Animated Wonder is Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here and excited to talk about how we shouldn't trust people in chicken suits.
Yeah, I can't think of a single person in a chicken suit who is trustworthy. Also, when you say chicken suits, I just automatically think of Breaking Bad, which is a different... But anyway, we're here to talk about this week's Animated Wonder, which is Toy Story 2, released in 1999 from the USA, directed by Ash Brannon, John Lasseter, Lee Unkrich, written by Andrew Stanton, Rita Asaya, Doug Chamberlain, Chris Webb, John Lasseter, Peter Doctor, and Ash Brannon. Studio was, of course, Pixar, and distributed by Walt Disney Pictures. Your cast is Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joanne Cusack, Kelsey Grammer, Don Rickles, Jim Varney, Wallace Shawn, John Ratzenberger, Annie Potts, Estelle Harris, John Morris, and Wayne Knight. Synopsis was: when Woody is stolen by a toy collector, Buzz and his friends set out on a rescue mission to save Woody before he becomes a museum toy property with his Roundup gang, Jesse, Prospector, and Bullseye. Coming into this one, Ash, what are your thoughts on Toy Story 2 in general and then on this rewatch?
Well, I think it's very similar to my feelings about Toy Story, which is that it's a seminal animated film. I think there's always the discussion which is better, Toy Story 1 or Toy Story 2. And it's always hard because I feel like Toy Story 2 definitely just amplifies the scope of what they were aiming for with the first film and just raises the bar, I think, which was crazy at a time when generally sequels were not good. When that film came out, sequels were generally not like cash-ins, which, I mean, the story of the making of Toy Story 2 is almost as infamous as the film itself. But like, they're making it, having another team making it to almost be a DVD, or I guess it would be a VHS.
Yeah, because most Disney movies sequels would be just like straight to DVD, straight to VHS, whatever. Yeah,
whatever the equivalent was at the time. Movie, and then Pixar itself kind of coming back and taking over, and then also the story of them almost losing the entire film, except someone fortunately had a backup at home, that kind of stuff. So there's all these stories around the making of this film that are quite interesting as well from a history of film standpoint. But yes, Toy Story 2, really great.
Yes, I am on the side that it's better than the first one. It was growing up, Toy Story 2 was definitely always my favorite one.
Your preference of the two to rewatch?
Yeah. I think it's just something I've always enjoyed Jessie as a, like, just the dynamic she brought to this, and then especially with the third one, and Bullseye as well. I mean, once you add, I don't know, there's just something about those characters, especially even as a kid, I just for some reason enjoyed having those characters and the interactions with them and everything as well. And then the other thing that always stood out as a kid was the opening sequence, like getting this sort of mini, what would eventually become the Lightyear film, I guess. Like a proper, like, you look at this Buzz Lightyear flying around and fighting Zurg.
It's meant to be a video game cutscene.
Well,
from 1999.
Yeah, but they didn't want to give away that it was a video game until they cut back to them playing it, so but yeah, so that part always stood out, and then the stuff at the end, even having like Zurg make an appearance in this one, and the fight with Love Woody and stuff. So there's always all these moments that I always go, like, overall I always enjoy Toy Story 2 a lot more than, I wouldn't say a lot more, I just always enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it more than the first one, whatever. It's a really good time. I mean, I think even on the rewatch, I think it's just still, even knowing, as said last week, that I would have, or the last episode, they watched the first one and the second one up 10 times, but the second one I was just fine. And still, I think it's just more exciting, I feel. Stakes feel higher, I feel.
Well, like, I guess they kind of are.
Yeah.
Like, because Woody is such an integral part of that group, like him being gone forever potentially, is much more scary, I guess. Okay. And I think also Buzz leading a group of the toys out, I think also adds to the stakes of it. Whereas before it was just Buzz and Woody on a venture into the outside world.
Yeah.
Now it's this whole entire group of characters tagging along.
With this insane sequence on a road where they just cause
what an incredibly choreographed scene of destruction.
Yeah. That was, yeah. That's the sort of thing where like, what couldn't they do with the first one that they went back to do with the second one? It's like, yeah, let's just do this whole like animated car crash sequence. Like,
yeah.
Breaking down the film, core themes, I just had down morality, I guess, for this one. The big, I guess, the crux of the movie, at least for me, comes down to like that core discussion that Woody has a couple times with Prospector about, keep saying that you got to go back and he's gonna love you for a couple more years and then you're gonna be put on a shelf or put out the pasture basically. And I guess if you change it all to death, then it's sort of like that's a toy's death, I guess, like the end of the line sort of thing. So it's like almost the film then almost becomes like this thing where he has a choice to be put in a cryogenic chamber and survive forever, but have a completely boring life, or go have a exciting but shorter life and just accept that death comes at the end of it. That's at least like my odd take on it. What do you think of the?
No, I could definitely see how that could be the main idea. I feel like it is definitely, again, it's like weirdly this parenting story about these people dealing with the kids that they've been raising, leaving them behind. Again, you could take it as a friendship thing, like the relationships like changing and like not needing you as much, I think is the message I guess they kind of get across. So like just because Jessie's story is so harsh, her bit like being neglected and then like kind of gathering dust on the ground underneath the bed and then donated away despite her loving this other person. I mean, you can relate it to all sorts of relationships, I think. So, but yeah, I guess the choice between being appreciated forever or like loving the thing that you're doing right now, I guess that's also like, do you go for this massive thing that will change everything in your life, or do you stay with the thing you and the family that you know and love? I guess you could take that idea as well from the film.
Okay, and then there could also be, I think, when it comes to Jessie, like a willingness to start again element there. Obviously, it's like her time come up, sort of like she was basically sent off to purgatory, if you want to view the box that she'd been living inside for so long, as this purgatory between the end of her life and then moving on. After that, she's just been hanging out in a box doing nothing. And then, she gets this second chance and has to be willing to take the risk of coming to move in with this a whole bunch of new people, but getting a second shot at another life.
Yeah.
So, and then cultural context for this film, I think sort of everything you just said before is what I would put down for this one. I think like box office wise and like reviews and everything, like this is a revered film where my quick span of the reviews that came out at the time, everyone's like talking about, is it better than the first one? Like a lot of the reviews like, this is fantastic, might be better than the first. This is fantastic, might be better than the first. Box office did great and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think cultural context is just that that sort of stuff, the stories you were talking about. I remember, I didn't know that until probably like 4 or 5 years ago. But when you find that stuff out, you're like, what the hell? What was going on over there? And a good testament to also, I don't know, they were still working out how to deal with the whole digital part of making it and having it
Yeah.
not be as risky, because if you can just magically lose all the files nearly,
Yeah.
maybe you need to think about different
that's
ways.
when they started backing up regularly.
Yeah, maybe think about backing up to a hard drive or something while you're making it. So
the cloud wasn't a thing back then, kids.
No, true. It's true. Yes, the cloud was not a thing. Is there anything else like cultural context wise? But yeah, that's the.
I mean, other than obviously the first movie had blown up. So coming off the back of that, like obviously there's the joke inside the film of like they didn't have enough Buzz Lightyears created, made for demand, which was a thing that happened in real life post the first movie. Everybody wanted a Buzz Lightyear toy, and there just weren't enough. These characters have become mainstays in children's home by the time this movie came out. So
yeah,
just the fact it's a sequel makes it culturally significant. Yeah.
They play on the sequel stuff. I mean, they do a Empire Strikes Back joke, of course. So they're very well aware that they're doing a sequel in a world where most sequels aren't good. But they're like, we're just going to joke about the ones that are good.
Yeah.
Hopefully, lean into that.
And then we can, be good by comparison.
Yeah. Also, I just want to point out before I forget, the most adult joke in this movie, which sort of took me by surprise because I couldn't remember it, at the very end of the movie where Jesse does that fling thing and then opens up the door and then Buzz's wings pop open. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. So emotional philosophical ideas for this one. The only thing I had down here is just it's very like surface level idea, but just that toys are for playing with, but not for collecting. Or like this movie has a very paints collectors as bad people, basically.
Yeah, as money hungry.
Yeah,
people who would like
money hungry,
hoard a bunch of stuff,
and
only interested in the value of the money of the thing, which some collectors, I guess. He's not really a collector. He's someone who has purposely gotten all these things in order to make a profit from them.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
he's what is the word that we use now for people who buy a bunch of stuff and then resell it? Yeah, he's a scalper. He's an old school scalper.
Old school scalper. Because I mean, by the time you get to the end of the movie where they find the new advert and he's just crying on TV in the chicken
which, again, in a series that has some really unrealistic elements in a, I guess, unrealistic world, the idea that he is shot the next day a new commercial in which he is crying.
Well, he was on the phone about it, I think, early in the movie about shooting it, right? I think they're talking about shooting a new commercial the next day or something like that.
But then it's up the next day, the commercial.
Yeah, it's unrealistic that someone would be like, you know what?
We're going to air it live.
Yeah. Yeah. In the Toy Story universe, ads aren't pre-recorded. All ads are done live.
Yeah.
That is the only way to explain why a man's crying on TV. I was thinking about though when the movie ended and it's like as they get off the plane and the really cool slingshot sequence thing, then the plane takes off, and at the time I was sitting there going, but if you paid for like insurance, and because it would come across like the plane lost the item.
Wasn't he on the plane? So wouldn't he have been in Japan?
No, that's the whole thing. He says on the phone, I'm going to catch the next flight to Japan, to the guy on the phone who's buying it. But then when we next see him, he's talking to someone about the cost to post the items. So I don't know if he was actually on the plane. I've always been
he's posting the other merchandise.
Right, okay.
Like all the memorabilia.
Yeah, because I've got to be honest.
He took the actual main important,
My whole life I've been confused about.
It's like wrestlers
on the plane or not.
I'm sure they check some stuff, but they have to make sure they have their gear and belts on them at all times.
Well,
it's like that.
Yeah, they should. The amount of times you hear about wrestlers who their gear gets lost when they show up to a town and they don't have the gear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I guess he should have carried them on when you think about it.
Yeah,
if you could have.
You would. They always say like whenever you travel, your most expensive stuff, most expensive valuable stuff, carry on.
Irreplaceable stuff, carry on.
Yeah. Anything, the rest of your stuff, that's your clothes or whatever that you can just buy more, whatever. If worst case scenario, check it. But yeah. Welcome to Playing Tips 101. Animation quality and style for this one, I think, is a huge step up, especially watching them in close succession. Do you agree? Or yeah.
I mean, I think the best example is compare Scud to Buster. And that's the difference. Scud is a very basic pixel-esque or like triangle-shaped character, whereas this looks like a proper dog in this movie. So I think that's the clearest distinction you could make between the two films. But then there's also just a bigger scale. Like you see more buildings, you see more cars, you have the shot inside the toy store of all the different walls of toys detailed. Yeah, it's just a lot of detail and scope in this one compared to the last one.
Then all the human characters as well, I think look better.
The human characters look much better.
Yeah, and the fact that they even choose to spend so much time with the human characters on screen in full focus shows they felt a lot more confident about them, I think, going into this one, which is good. So, yeah, it's a huge step up, and it's sort of crazy that it happens. This was 99. Yeah, so it's like within such a short couple of years, they turn out something that looks so much better. So it goes to show how fast the technology was moving.
Well, they did a Bug's Life in between, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bug's Life is like 97, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, they had a little bit more practice, but still, it's like the jump. The quick turnaround, I think, is very impressive compared to now, I guess. Now it's like 3 or 4 years between movies. Between sequels, anyway.
Story tone and pacing for this one, I think it is a overall. If we were talking about with Toy Story 1, how it's sort of a rocket ship of a movie that, like, once it starts going, it's just sort of like goes, and it's barely 90 minutes. This one, I do feel like feels like a much more, especially from a script standpoint. I just think it feels like such a more structured film, especially when you've got Woody's over here doing this thing, and like once Woody and Buzz leave, we're basically just with them, and we do a little bit of cutaway, but there's not like tandem stories happening that would the cutaway. But this having two different groups and cutting backwards and forwards between their two stories happening at the same time, I think it just shows the overall structure of the film. I think it's a lot stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, I think it's just a matter of scope and confidence, I think, from the team as to what they're able to do.
I'm going to skip who this is made for because I don't think there's too much of a difference between this and the first one.
There's people who like Toy Story.
Yeah, people like Toy Story. But Wondrous Elements picked the two elements of this film that stood out to you the most. So I got animation, visual style, music and sound design, voice performances, world building, and emotional impact.
I think I'll go. I think voice performances again. I think they're the strongest thing, and having the addition of like Joan Cusack and Kelsey Grammer as Stinky Pete and all those extra performances, I think was continues to make this series such a strong thing, and then I think emotional impact, I'm going to say, because I feel like this was the start of Pixar earning the reputation for having sequences that made people cry. I feel like with the Jessie sequence and like that really sad story that is told over that song, Sarah McLachlan song, I think definitely as a kid got me a little bit emotional and that kind of thing. So I think that is the beginning of that history of Pixar making children cry.
So that song plus the performance at the end is why I'm going to go music and sound design for this one, because even though the first one has the original You've Got a Friend of Me there, I think this one has like two distinct sort of music injections within the film. It's not a credit sequence sort of thing. And yeah, the song that plays during the Jesse sequence is what sells the emotion of. I'm trying to think what the song's called, but I can't. But that song is what sells that sequence as makes it as sad as a story as it is for her. And then yeah, singing Penguin at the end. It's great. Love that little squeaky box. Love that. And then I will go the animation visual style again. I know I did it for the first one, but I still think it's a huge step up. And there's so many sequences in this, especially when you take into account the time and at release and stuff like the highway sequence and stuff where you're like, wow, it's crazy. That's a thing that was going. And then, yeah, the dog, as you pointed out, stuff like that. So, What is your favorite sequence, scene, or character from Toy Story 2?
I think I'm going to go with Woody learning about Woody's Roundup. Just, learning his history and, whether it is him seeing all the merchandise or watching the funnily, puppeteered episodes and that kind of stuff. I think all that stuff is really fantastic and really enjoyable and but also raises some interesting questions about Woody.
Well, I guess I don't know. He wouldn't know unless right? How would he know?
Well, the show came out in, from what I could tell, the 1950s, right? Is when the Woody's Roundup is set.
So he's an old toy. He's
an old toy. So how did he come to be with Andy? I think it was always the interesting question. Yeah. And that, there's sprung many a theory about he was his father's toy and he handed it down to Andy and that kind of stuff. So,
this is interesting. He either has to be handed down or his mum found a really cheap one and just brought it. It was like, oh, this cowboy, and didn't because you're buying a toy, you're not going, oh, it's from 1950s. My 5-year-old son won't want this. I'm going the Jesse song sequence is the scene. That's sort of big emotional heart, I think, of the movie, even though it's only 30, 45 seconds long. But as I said, I really enjoyed Jessie as a character from these ones on. So that scene sort of sets her sad story, and it's good to see her so happy as we go along through the rest of the movie.
That scene was so good that Woody was willing to give up Andy.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
That convinced it.
That's a very good point.
He changed his mind very quickly, but yes.
Place in animation history and how it holds up today. I mean, we've talked about its legacy, which is both a very funny and nearly horrific one. So
yes, so it definitely, because of it being again one of the best animated sequels, I think it definitely is up there in movie animated history. So
I think people in general quite often put Toy Story 2 on lists of just the greatest movie sequels, let alone animated sequels.
Yeah. So.
So 100% on. As I said, if we're doing a list of best animated films, and you only allowed to put one per franchise, I'm probably putting Toy Story 2 unless I change my mind later in this rewatch series we're doing. But that's where I'd currently be at. Do you have any other thoughts before we wrap up this one?
No, just there are a lot of great sequences. I love the toy, Andy playing with the toys at the start. It's you need to go in 5 minutes, and somehow he's built up this entirely crazy, elaborate play sequence that he wants to play out in that.
The pig, the army man,
kind of stuff.
Somehow hides Buzz in that cupboard, straps him into a car because it's Woody with there's a lot for 5 minutes.
Yeah, but you do what you can with the time you have. And then
moral of the movie.
Again, all the buzzers, and the interactions between the two buzzers, Kim being very upset that this was what he was originally like, and having to deal with it, and then facing off against Zerg, and then the most amusing like turn of them become very close.
You coming, Buzz? No, I got to catch up with my father for all these years.
Like my dad. You're the best dad ever.
I think that other funny moment is just when Buzz, the real Buzz, presses to open his thing, so he's like choking, and then just looks up, and the cut to the shot of Woody and everyone is just
oh yeah, that's the real Buzz.
It's a very good,
just holding up his foot. No, the giant belt did not give it away.
No. Well, he says when they get in the thing, and Ham's like, "Where'd you get the belt?"
I guess,
He's like, "It's a company issue or whatever." He says,
yeah.
The new versions of Buzz must be standard. He's an old one. He didn't come with the belt. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Animated Wonders. Let us know what you thought of the film on social media at explosionnetwork.com/follow. If you enjoyed the show, you can find more podcasts, reviews, and pop culture coverage over at explosionnetwork.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast and Explosion Network, head on over to explosionnetwork.com/support. Until the next episode, remember that animation is cinema.